My black and white scarf, my black and white scarf, my black and white scarf, my black and white, yeah, it's black and white, we're just black and white, it's my black and white, it's my black and white scarf.
Hello and welcome to the Town End Podcast. It's season 5, episode 33. Well, it was a cracker in Oriel tonight as the students came to Oriel Park to try to teach us a lesson, but thankfully we came out the right side at the end of that lesson. To join us on the show tonight, we're joined by Gally.
I like that clever intro. That was nice.
I literally just thought of something there.
I think we had one last year or the year before with something to do with the old study or education in the intro. So yeah, it's nice to keep the UCD angle. Hopefully we won't have to do it next year because we're in Premier Division. But look.
Fingers crossed. Gally, during the week and in his post-match comments, Kieran Clough asked for a reaction from the Dundalk FC players to that defeat against Longford. It certainly saved up a thriller, if nothing else, tonight.
Yeah, I think even an end-to-end draw was probably counted as a reaction tonight after last week's game, when you consider how the game went and Longford down to 10 and things like that, and the fact that it is Longford, and the fact that if anybody listened to our show the week before, we probably just rallied on, or I definitely did anyway. I can't drag you down with me.
We're blaming you for it.
Yeah, but anyway. How comfortable we should feel maybe going down to Longford. But yeah, like I think there's nothing like Oriel on a Friday night for football, and I think we'll talk about how they played and how UCD played tonight, but we knew what we were going to get with UCD. We know they can play. We know they want to pass the ball. They want to play on the forefront if they can, and they got at Dundalk, and Dundalk had to be at it from minute one. Interesting lineup as well from Kieran, but again, it shows that they're not afraid to make these decisions because you're 4 games from the end, and you're quite happy to kind of change 1 or 2 around, or give young fellas a crack, and and it hasn't really caused any issues all season, and nor did it tonight, albeit a little probably hairy moments and times. UCD probably had too many chances in the first half for my liking, but look, UCD came to play and they always do, and Dundalk were a match for them when it needed to be. Could have been better, but I mean, look, the results, like I think it's Stephen, or I think it was Tom or Stephen McDonald at the end said, look, it doesn't matter how you get these wins. You at this stage of the season, just get the 3 points over the line, and and we're there.
Yeah, and you mentioned those changes. So O'Keefe coming back in, obviously for Mayo out. Sean Spate, like we talked about before, could Sean step in there when Sean Keogh was leaving? Got a big chance, and I played pretty decent in there. But Andy Parashev and Groob in the middle, I don't think anyone's seen that pairing coming in, obviously with Air Dervin also returning to the squad. There's a triangle I didn't see happening.
No,
because it doesn't look there's that much defensive help to help Air Dervin in there.
Yeah, I mean, you're obviously banking on just playing your way through the game in midfield. Dervin, does that provide that little bit of a, I don't want to say steely defence, but he's going to be on you. He's going to be biting at the heels of players, and it's probably a playmaker's triangle, really. I mean, they can all play the ball, they can all move forward. Harry Groom wouldn't be your most defensive player. Parrish, if you don't want him defending, if he's defending, we've got a problem. We want him up the field, supplying the likes of a Ruby or Kenny in this instance, or McDade, who's had another great game himself. And they've obviously decided that with the 2 wing backs, so we have they can play as well higher up the field if needed. And it's probably, you're talking 60% of the game it works. Some of the times you really want that enforcer in the middle of the park. But I mean, if you were to change it around, I suppose, do you get the 3 goals? Do you go maybe 2-0 down and end up dropping all the points, never mind getting 1 point? But look, I think Kieran, we've showed the 2 boys, Kieran and Ken, aren't afraid to make these decisions, and they're just not quite happy to put it. You could look at even someone like Conor O'Keefe playing as a CDM, but why? Like if he's confident enough that these boys can play ball and play in the final third of the pitch and play the ball in their half, then these are the boys who are going to have to do it and step up, and they've trusted him to do it. And look, we've probably gotten over the line. You want to say it's probably not the skin of your teeth, but I mean it's a tighter game than you want it to be. And I suppose your question probably have a different twist on it if we were beaten or got a draw. You know, we were probably talking something completely different, like that we should have had a CDM, we should have had someone, maybe a Sean Spade playing in the midfield rather than left back. But you know, look, you take risks. I probably wouldn't have taken the risks. That's why we're not professional coaches, Chris. But these lads saw an opportunity, and I look at it, they've come out the right end of it. Well, you know, albeit parts of the game we kind of struggled to cover UCD moving forward. But I felt overall, look, a win's a win, and that's all that matters at this stage of the season.
Yeah, we had plenty of opportunities earlier on. Sean Spate with an early chance at the near post. So you're probably wondering how he ended up there, but a good shot in at the near post, and well served by the keeper, and Vinnie Leonard with another header in there. It looked like we were applying that pressure and trying to take the game to them, because I think it's fair to say falling behind in Longford really came back to bite us, and we it felt like we couldn't get out of second gear then to raise our game towards them. But Lewis Dignam's goal, I think Stevie Mack on the comms was kind of talking about how they were trying to double up on Sean Spate in that on that left hand side, and for the first goal that's so obvious that he's missing that lack of reinforcement and help from one or two of those centre pairings to come back and just track a runner. Sean gets pulled over to the ball as it comes over, and I think it's McCullough receives the ball out wide from a long ball. Sean has to go and engage that, and then Lewis Dignam kind of runs on through in the inside, and you're thinking one of your defensive midfielders is going to have to follow that, but of course that's not Andy Parashev or Harry Groom, or actually think it might even be McDade. That's not really their game, and that's where this kind of fell asunder a little bit at that stage, that ploy.
Yeah, and when you have a wee bit of, and look, it's inexperience. Sean Spade has come into a game there, you know, maybe he's expected to start. I don't know. He probably would have been told earlier in the week, but I think we're all stressed, man.
I think we all are. The longest 5 minutes of
that. Like, you know, obviously, no matter how fast your midfielders are, so the Delvins, the Parashevs, if they're not used to being in that defensive role, doesn't matter how fast they are, they're always going to be a yard behind in their head because they're not expecting to have to cover that. I think it's Parashev at the end that ends up covering back, but you can see he's completely out of his comfort zone, and that's probably not his game. You know, should have our centre backs come in? Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's a simple 1-2 ball that they just got in behind. Nobody's tracking the runner. Sean Spate's come out to take the ball off the playmaker, and just nobody's tracked the runner. There's not a centre back within 5 or 6 yards of him, which is really unlike Dundalk this season. Yes, UCD were quick on the counter attack. I think at one stage went the whole way back to the goalkeeper, put themselves under crazy pressure and just passed away out of it. And you know, I think that's just a minute or two before the goal. You know, we just have to be aware of little things like that. Now, look, we're coming to the stage of the season where you'll forgive stuff like that, provided we get 3-2 results.
Yeah, exactly.
But it's just something now that somebody might pick off. You know, that's the only worry about it, because we're not used to being beaten like that. We don't usually concede, you know, 2 goals at Oriel Park. 2 goals probably, you know, all season. Many of the games that we wouldn't have scored any. We probably got, you know, probably the best defensive team in the league, you know, even on the pitch as playmakers and defensive leaders. But yeah, I mean, like Stevie said, and you said, they've probably gone for Sean. I don't think I don't need to call it too high up the field. He's a bit young. He's probably he probably looks more like a centre back or a centre midfielder more than a left back. But at the end of the day, he's put out there for reasons. He's obviously impressed in training. He's done enough to get into the pitch, get onto the squad. And, you know, I think you can forgive that, but you can't forgive the more experienced boys in behind and say, right, look, we need to, like Ave Devon, I'm sure he's off the screen now, but I'm sure he's absolutely fuming at the rest, and never mind the young fella. But, you know, you come out to mark a player, he's moved the ball too fast for you. It's up to the rest of them then to cover that space, and they haven't. And, you know, the shot's gone across Peter. It's like Stevie said,
it's gone through his legs, hasn't it?
Yeah, there's probably
at the near post.
Yeah, and Stevie alluded to it on the you know, he might have been expected to go across the box. You know, but at the same time, look, you got to be. He's almost diving for it when he doesn't really need. You probably just let him hit him, but it's one of them. It's zipped across, and look, you know, it's a keeper's nightmare. You know, it's one of them. Like it reminds you of kind of a ball that comes in around the 6-yard box, and the keeper has to dive out for it because you're no man's land, and it's just one of them. It's zipped across. I think, look, it probably happens once in a season. Something like that happens. It's very rare. But ironically, Peters have a great save at the other end of the pitch later on in the game, and you know, it's one of them, but you got to stop it earlier. You know, letting a player come in at that kind of distance, you got to stop it earlier, and that's something to look at, and something probably they'll scrutinise them over the last couple of days, because mistakes like that will be picked off over the next couple of weeks.
It's fair to say we fought ourselves back into this game again.
Yeah.
This time, McDaid at the heart of things again, whether he was a fault for not tracking back previously, but he kind of goes on a slalom in between. Did we get a bit of luck on this penalty call?
From the ref, you mean, or just?
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, Jesus, I like for me. Look, we were saying it earlier on, and you probably make a good point. That there's a bit of body weight involved in it.
Yeah, it looks like the two hips definitely collide, but you can clearly see the ball going in an opposite direction.
Like the ball,
if it was against us, we'd be fuming.
Yeah, you'd absolutely be fuming. Like for me, it's not a penalty. But at the end of the day, the referees may have seen what we were just after saying.
He's in a good position.
Yeah, he's right behind it. I mean, and he's gone like, and ironically, well, not ironically, luckily for the defender, if there's nobody else around, he'd probably get a red. You know, like, I mean, because he's given him a yellow.
There's a bit of a sandwich of players in there.
Yeah, I don't even know. Like, I mean, obviously, you probably have to give a yellow for the penalty, but it's probably not even. If it's outside the box, it's probably not even a yellow. It's barely a free kick because he got the ball first. I think if the way it worked, I think it was 3 on him at one stage. If the first one doesn't get him, the next person's going to nail him anyway. But for me, it's not a penalty. But I can understand why he's given it. But I've watched the replay since. I think it's harsh. I think it's really harsh. But look, like how many times we said, when you're up that top end of the season or end of the table, you're going to get a bit of luck somewhere.
And you'll take at this time of the year, we'll take any luck that's coming.
100%. The teams at the top of the league will always get luck. It always seems to fall that way. You've watched it for years, you know, across the water. We've seen it for years. And that's Dundalk's with luck. I think we had one a couple of weeks ago as well, but I thought it was a penalty or a tackle, or I can't remember what it was. We spoke about it, but you need that bit of luck to win league titles. And if you're in the hunt for it, you know, moments like that, you'll thank your lucky stars in a couple of weeks.
Good penalty from Arubi, though. You know,
cracking.
We had obviously Daryl has stepped up of late, and Daryl found himself back on the bench tonight. I don't know how, considering we thought he was out for 5 weeks, and suddenly after 3 he's back on the bench. Fair play to him, but you know, it's a cool, calm collective, and that at that stage had put Bemi Arubi into double figures for the season. Considering he wasn't the first choice striker, that's some going.
Yeah, I'm like we talked about the 3 up top all season, and we kind of thought he would be the one to kind of not drop out, but maybe miss out on that start and kind of every you know, week in, week out. But now I think he's the one chasing. He's the one to chase. I don't see, like, I mean, he's been absolutely like unbelievable. He's on 11 now. I think, you know, you just wanted to get a hat trick there at Oriel Park. It would be unbelievable. But like you said, the original question, his penalty's sensational. Like, he's taken 2, and the penalty later on is just as good. But it's a dynamic, clinical finish. There's no kind of messing around. Line it up, hit the ball straight down. I mean, yes, you know, if Daryl's on the pitch, Daryl's probably taking it. But yeah, clinical from him. Wants to score, wants to play. I mean, what he was signed for. And yeah, we kind of we debated at the start of the year whether it be Kenny, Ebby, and we didn't know if maybe Hogan out left, or, you know, even when McDaid came in, we were kind of thinking, right, well, there's another attacker that Arubi might be able to get in ahead of. But he's done nothing wrong. He's absolutely been, like, his hold up play, his pace, his head, and his strength. You know, we've got 3 of them. We've got Ebby himself and Owen Kenny. I mean, like, hopefully now, like, you know, if they do finish the job off, that's the play you want to see to under the Shamrock Rovers at Oriel Park next season. That's the type of play that'll give the crowd a lift. I think he's a fantastic asset to the club, and like 11 goals, nothing to be sniffed at. I mean, 11 goals to be, you know, right up there with the best of the best in the league. And yeah, I think he's been sensational and deserved his goals tonight. Look, albeit the penalties, he's earned in the build up to them, he's earned them all.
Yeah, and just to Jason Crawley's point there, you know, like, there were 2 pressure penalties as well. You know, you're coming closer to the halftime break. You're trying to get yourself back into this. He was handed the ball straight away. It's kind of like, you know, it's kind of like, this is what he wanted. You know, you love a confident striker to step into those sort of modes, because that's probably where we fall down previously.
Because like you say, one's to level the game and one's to take the lead, and they don't come much more pressure, especially with 4 or 5 games to go in the league season. You know, where we are. Yeah, the pressure has to be massive, absolutely. Like Martin said at the start of the show, the stress, crowd up players. It's probably everybody. It's one of those nights that it kind of hangs in the balance, especially when you see them even get the late goal that they got, they make it 3-2, and it's just one of those
that
nights
was typical of this season.
Yeah, and you just don't want to repeat. You don't want to repeat of those nights. You want to get these games put to bed and get that title in your hands. But again, we've made it very difficult for ourselves just within the 90 minutes. But we've gotten there in the end. But a Ruby, yeah, Darryl wouldn't be far off of me man of the match. I thought he was excellent.
Yeah, we get into the halftime at 1-1. Then probably no surprising that there was some sort of change going to happen in the middle. It was Harry Groom that made way. But Daryl Horgan coming in was the one I didn't see happening, because I thought, one, was he just kind of on the bench just to make up the numbers? Two, maybe you give him 5-10 minutes run out just to get some sort of minutes. I wasn't expecting the whole 45 minutes and the 5 minutes of added time. So 50 minutes he ended up getting in those legs, and he was dead until obviously he got substituted back off again.
50 minutes. He got 50 minutes in a fight. It's not bad for someone who's injured a couple of weeks. And you maybe would have looked at someone like Tracy maybe to come in, kind of sit in the middle of the park maybe.
That's what originally I was thinking. Shane Tracy, middle of the park. You take one of those, your Parashif, or
just let it settle down.
Harry Groom off would have made sense. But yeah, he went all in.
He went more attacking than we've even spoke about the 3 in the middle. And look, that's
which was brave, considering I thought we probably had the better of the chances. We didn't talk about Ruby's chance in the first half as well. Say, but the keeper's legs was a good shot. Another one that just went over. Like we the majority of the chances, but I felt that just UCD on the break were just so quick. They were really, really scary. And so to have the bravery to make a real attack-minded substitute. But I think Stephen McDonald picked up on it on the comms. What that allowed then was Dervin moved over to the left side in that middle 3 to give Sean Spate that little extra protection. Yeah. And you could see probably the first 10 minutes of that second half, UCD were trying to figure out why their play of switching it to left wasn't working. It was because Dervin, the engine, was there picking up that second ball every time. So when Sean went to engage the ball, suddenly there wasn't an outlet man, because the pace of Dervin getting in behind to track a player back, that's exactly what he needed that side. Yeah,
and like you said at the top of that, like UCD have always been a team that you always know they can play ball. They've always got whatever manager they've had, whatever coach they've had, they've always played. They're probably one of the best footballing teams we've seen in the league. Although they don't win a lot of games or a lot of trophies. They've always played ball, but like you said tonight, their pace on our top was absolutely, like, I've never seen them move so fast. Like, I mean, you compare that to a Premier Division or movement. I know it's First Division, but you compare that to movement in a Premier Division team. Everybody, not lumping forward, but everybody moving forward, cohesive. It was sensational to watch at times. But like you say, the subtle change of, well, there's nothing subtle about Dervin, but the subtle change of Dervin over to give Sean Spate that little bit of confidence, knowing he has that ahead of him.
Michael Kelly just even giving him a nod there for man of the match.
He's definitely in the running. I mean, I thought he was like if we even talk about his shot in the first half, Sean Q-esque. Yeah, so unlucky. He hit it like an absolute rocket. But again, not afraid. These young fellas are coming in. They're not afraid to wear the club jerseys. They're not afraid to take on a team at a First Division level, at senior level. These boys fear nothing, and we've a whole team of them. And like Sean Spate's another one. He's another one on the conveyor belt.
And Sean's got a shout for man of the match here tonight.
He's been excellent. And like look, and apart from that issue, you've got a little bit of inexperience with him, but he more than equipped himself. I mean, he's come in, he's had bit parts all season, but he's more than equipped himself for me. I think I don't know if he'd left back, if he'd be your starting left back, but he's definitely one that could do the job for you. There's no doubt about it. If you can compete with the pace of UCD tonight, I don't think the Dundalk have been undone by a team as fast as that all season. So like it's good soil, kind of good zone for him that he's going to be in and around amongst the kind of getting the 70-80 minute mark, and then as the season comes in then to the real business end of it, we've got a player there that can maybe do a job at the back or the centre midfield if you need to lock it up early and late in the game.
Just a shout though on that substitute. It's brave by Kieran and Ken, but also to identify that issue and to realise it would have been easy probably to hook Sean Spate saying he could have been the issue, the young lad or whatever, he'll come off no problem. But to be brave and take one of your more influential players off like Harry Groom and make that switch and change some personnel to help the 16-year-old, like it's such a brave thing to kind of do. But it, like you say, it worked, and you got, and I'm sure Sean Spate's probably learned a lot from that game as well. He'll probably be more vocal and looking for help from other players.
Yeah, and it's like anything else. Like Johnny Lynch is after mentioned Conor O'Keefe there as well. Immense tonight, but the players, Spade playing with the likes of him, even Vinnie Leonard. I mean, these boys are the same age, but I mean that experience Vinnie Leonard would have, Conor O'Keefe, any amount of experience in League of Ireland football. But yeah, to take him off, you probably would have been looking at then a bit of a mental fatigue, a bit of, oh man, I've made a mistake, I'm coming off the field. So that's a credit to the boys for keeping him on. You could have went with Tracy at the left, you could have put Delvin at the left back and he swapped him out. But I mean, they've stuck with him. Like I say, stuck with him like he's had a nightmare. He hasn't. I mean, it's just a bit of.
No, it's just they were doubling up on him. Yeah. They were doubling up on him and trying.
That's experience from the UCD side. Yeah, Ronan Finn, things like that. Like these boys know how to play. But it's a credit to him that he's on. He stayed on because you can understand if you know you've had a bit of a mare for one of the goals and you're whipped off the field at that age. That could be a serious detrimental effect over the next couple of weeks there of him not wanting to play or not.
He's probably brimming of confidence now.
Absolutely. Confidence. You can't beat confidence of being given a game and then be kept on the field for as long as he was. You can't beat. That's just that. He'd be buzzing now, and that kind of maturity level will kind of come back to him, and he'd be ready to go then for training in next week's game. And that's what you want. That's what you want, the hunger in these boys' bellies all the time.
Yeah. I suppose McDade was influential for the first one, first penalty shout, and probably got the look of the green. Definitely no qualms about the second one. Very obvious jersey pull there for me. But once again, just getting in there in amongst them, and he was a real menace, McDade at times for them. Like they didn't know he wanted to kind of get on the ball and run at them all the time, and that proved to be their downfall nearly. And once he got inside the box, there were just silly fouls for them to concede.
Yeah, and I think he's gotten himself into these positions a few times since we signed him. I think we mentioned him, it wasn't last week, it wasn't here, but the week before. He's been a really, I don't know what the word is, a real kind of, I don't know what the word is I'm looking for, Chris, I'm not going to lie to you. Industrious. He's industrious signing. Yeah, he's been kind of one of, probably not talked about enough, even before he was signed for us. He was kind of half mentioned, and McGlade was mentioned, and you kind of think
was him and McGlade were kind of, are they going to go to Cove or are they going to go to us, wasn't it?
That's it. It was one of them, and people like, sure, one here, one there. We see how it works, but I think, not to do any disservice to McGlade and Cove, but I think the lads have hit the money on the head here. I think he's been excellent. Himself,
he was probably lucky with that shot just before he won the penalty as well. He got himself in that same position, except that time he was able to get a shot off. It's a good save by the keeper who made plenty of good saves, like I said, throughout the night. But like I say, he just gets himself in amongst the players and probably leaning a bit. He's on the Instagram as well, don't worry.
And he's not even torn off the body. Unbelievable. But yeah, go on, sorry.
Well, like I say, he gets himself into that position 3 minutes before he's getting a shot off. Yeah, 3 minutes later, he's winning us the penalty. So, like you say, he's industrious, but he's doing it at the right end of the pitch.
Yeah,
which is the real key part. I don't think there's any qualms over the penalty. This one seemed to take an eternity for Benry to actually be given the ball to hit. And funny you mentioned it before. This time Horgan's on the pitch, and Horgan hands him the ball. So whether that was just maybe Darrell's thinking, I'm not 100% fit here. If I hit this wrong, it's a lot of pressure on me to get this right. You're bang in form. You scored one. Go for it and get your 11th of the season and push on to be the outright top goal scorer.
Yeah, and it never looks right. Two different penalty takers on the pitch at the same time. It never looks right. One taking one and one taking another. If you've gotten the first one, you've taken it, and you've missed it, that's fine. But if you've been that clinical with it, Darrell's used is obviously well experienced, like we mentioned with O'Keefe, so much experience. We let him take. He's in form. He's on a run here for double figures for the season. He's on a run there for, like we're talking about a 10, 12 year gap between a Ruby and Horgan easily. So like that mentorship, that kind of, no, I trust you, I'm club captain, I trust you to take the second penalty. A Ruby might have maybe just been confident enough to say, I'm taking it. But Darrell would have grabbed the ball first, maybe I went to go. And For me,
Well,
it doesn't look
I
right.
think it's the classic though at the moment. One player goes up, takes the ball.
Yeah.
So when the other players are around trying to put them off, they just hand it to whoever the penalty taker is then after, who's just gone under the radar. And that's
for me, it just
doesn't.
It doesn't look right. Two different penalty takers and taking penalties in a game. It doesn't look right. You need a bit of cohesiveness, a bit of cohesion with it. But delighted for Ruby and Darrell's on the right thing. And I don't think there's probably any kind of talk over. I think it was just happening. You've taken the first one, take the second one. Johnny on the spot, take the exact, like, two cracking penalties. The keeper gets neither of them. He's walloped them and he's placed them and the direction. That's exactly what you want them.
He's got the vibe of a player banging confidence though, hasn't he?
Yeah, 100%.
And the fact he jumps
like you said, Darrell coming back and might not maybe wanted, might not. And then if he misses it, you never hear the end of it, because then he's going to come off. He's come back early from an injury that he wants to be back for. You never hear the end of it all, people.
Yeah, but like I say, just on Jason's point there about the lead.
It's great.
But even that penalty decision from Darrell to give the ball to Ruby, like that just goes to show he puts team above himself.
Yeah, because
he could have been the one to hit that to get the glory, but he didn't. He gave it to the person who's, I suppose, for him, seemed the most likely to score, which wasn't him. But he takes that on board, and that's real captain and leadership qualities from Darrell, like, and that's the main thing. And Ruby jumping into the crowd then after behind the goal. I think Tom O'Connor's young lad was in the midst of it all. He's got the video of them all just piling on in, like. But it's
that's what you want that. It's like old school stuff, It's not old school stuff, but I mean that's when we
kids
went
don't get
Oriel
to touch,
we
Premiership footballers when they jump in, or like, so to get that in the League of Ireland, you get to touch, feel, and see football. Like it's really what it's all about. Yeah. Where we've seen Dundalk straight after Dogali is we get a lead, we fall back, we defend a little, once again, and credit to Kieran and Ken on this, is they've made a couple of substitutes again just at that time, where we could have sat back, but the freshness of substitutes coming on. This time, Sean Spade's game was run, just he's about to take a throw in, but it worked out with Shane Tracy. Quick throw into Darrell Horgan, gets to the byline, hooks it on. Great run by another player who's banging form at the moment, and that's Owen Kenny. Gets ahead of two defenders who just did not see him coming whatsoever. No one looked over the shoulder. He gets in ahead of the two defenders at the front post, and a super header. And a header's not something we see that often from Owen. We normally talk about his skill with the ball at his feet or hitting the ball early, but that's a super header from him and a real poacher's goal.
Yeah, it's not even it's the poacher's goal. It's his intuition to get in there. He knew, like, he was on the move as soon as that ball left Darrell Horgan's foot. He wasn't even waiting for the gauge to flight. He knew where he wanted to go. Like, if he times it any kind of, like, if he's out at all, it goes over him, or it just drops him below on his chest almost. But the two boys have not read it at all. The keeper's not even read it. Like, he's gone in there. He's practically a free header. If he could probably take a touch and finish with his feet. But that's just that intuition, that kind of forward-thinking player, hungry for goals, and it sets him a wee bit apart from other players in the league, I suppose. But I mean, it's almost Dean Ebby-esque. You'd expect him to be in there as well. But he's gotten in front.
Like Dean Ebby's goal against Longford.
That time and he's waited for nobody. He's not waiting for them to get a touch. He's not waiting for that man handling, anything like that. Any pushing or shoving, just get in there ahead of him, slot it in. It's probably in many ways it'll be the easiest goal he scores all season. Like he's just picked up a little bit of pace. I don't even think he's jumped. I think he's just stepped in, nodded in, and gone. Like you won't get many chances like that. But it goes to show that he can see them coming. He can read the game well for such a young player. We've said it many times. He probably goes, although he's won probably a few pizzas this year, he probably goes unnoticed because he's not hitting the back of the net at the rate of what you'd like. But his skill level, his football is just, his nose is second to none in my opinion. I think he's excellent.
Shout to Darrell to get the quick throw in as the substitutes are happening, where UCD kind of turn off for a second because the substitutes are probably kind of, they're waiting to see everything sit in. Darrell gets the early ball, played off the substitute, then gets to the byline, whips it back in, and it's smart thinking from Darrell again. Yeah,
that's the football brain. Like we mentioned himself, over the years, even you look at Ronan Finn, somebody mentioned Ronan Finn there, they've cut from the same cloth, experience in the league, know how to play the game. They're captains of their teams over the years for a reason. But that quick thinking, UCD just switched off just slightly. It only takes a split second to switch off, and then the two defenders having all the time in the world to switch back on just haven't. And just they've been caught in no man's land. They'd be really annoyed over that. Whenever conceding a goal, they got a right hammer for that after the game, because it's a crazy, like, although we've laid the plaudits down with Kenny for getting in there, somebody has to make a mistake somewhere, and them boys have definitely messed up there. I'd say Ronan Finn had one or two words to them in the dressing room after. But again, look, take nothing away from the goal itself. Hogan's quick thinking the throw, and I think it's Tracy. Is Tracy?
I think it is. I think Tracy takes the ball off Sean Spade's
and it's just a simple ball. It's a simple wee delicate touch. It's nothing major. He hasn't swung his leg. It's just a wee punch over the top, and Kenny's just found it. And it's a great goal to get, and it's probably something Kenny's deserved. He probably deserves a few more. Probably gets into double figures himself. But he's had a great season.
Well, that teed up my next point nicely, Gally. Only 2 weeks ago, we sat here saying, is it possibly we could get a few players into double figures, and that would make up for not having someone that's like a Barry Coffey or Mikey Rowe who's into 20+ goals.
Yeah.
Bar those two players, there's not too many other Cove or Wexford players banging in the goals towards. We had Darrell now in 10. Well, we've got Ruby in 11, Darrell in 10. We've got Owen Kenny on 10 now as well, and Dean Ebbe on 9, like just one behind with 3 games to go. So there might be a chance for him to nip in there, but 3 players already into double figures, like it shows where and how important team goals have been for Dundalk this season. Yeah,
and that's the team goals, exactly. And like, how many times did we have at a Premier Division level where, we had Darren Mean and Brian Gartland, Andy Boyle, Ronan Finn, all these, Patrick McElhenney, Mickey Duffy, all these boys scoring for him. We didn't actually need, I know we had the Pat Hubens of the world, but, goals coming from everywhere. And that's even Dane Massey on the back, coach of the club. He would have got his fair few goals as well. And, I'm not saying we're back to that kind of level, but it's good to have players who aren't necessarily playing 90 minutes on these kind of tallies. They're coming in there the games, they might get 60 minutes, they might get last half an hour, but they're still doing what they're meant to do when they come onto the field. Like they have 3 or 4 players in double figures. At first division level, I know, albeit we might be a cut above everybody else, but I mean, on the point system, we're not. I mean, we're only 6 points clear.
Yeah.
But to have kind of majority of your goals coming from 3 or 4 players is great, because normally you're reliant on that one kind of number 9 that's going to win fox in the box, poach, whatever you want to call it. But we just spread it out. I mean, you're almost annoyed maybe McDade hasn't scored more, because he's definitely worth it. Players like that, and
power shift as well. Start of the season,
exactly. Yeah, like I mean, if these boys are in, power shift's a goal. Harry Groom's got a few, but
even Vinnie Leonard and Sean Keogh obviously popped up.
That's what we're after. It proves that your set pieces are working, your tactics from front to back are working. Everybody's getting in on the goals. Everybody knows where to be for set pieces. But if you can get your front 3 scoring like that, I mean, you're halfway there. Really
it's interesting when you look at it as well, Gally. If you take the top 6 goal scorers in the league, we have 3.
Yeah.
So you've got Barry Coffey way out on 24 goals, Mikey Rowan 21 goals, Lee Devitt Malloy at 3D on 15, and then it's a Ruby, Darrell and Owen all on 11, 10, 10.
Yeah, a proper team effort, like you said, and that's what you want. You don't want to be
There's not
heavily
another
reliant
team
on
member on that list from any other team bar, and then we've 3, so half.
And it's great. Look, great for the other strikers that they're so heavily reliant, but it's a team game, and that's the boys have obviously been shrewd operators shining, and we have the capacity now on the wing for assists. I know we've got a couple of penalties, and I think Tom said that's our total against UCD alone. But somebody has to take them. You got to score these penalties when they come. The opportunity comes, and these players have, like I said, the fact that they're not all starting games and they're not all playing 90 minutes week in, week out.
Yeah.
To hit the back of the net with the minutes that they've been given. That's what you want from your team, and that's how you get up the leagues and get yourself promoted. Hopefully at the end of the season.
But in typical Dundalk fashion, we just as you're going 3-1 up and you're cruising and you were lamenting substitutes and everything's going good, we allow UCD back in. It's a silly foul to give away over at the far side. There's 2 players between the attacker and the goal as well. It's over in that corner. You got to just stand your ground. Don't give away the free kick. We do give it away, and it's Jake Doyle kind of with a lovely front post flick, which seemed to catch out everyone else then behind it and nestles in the far side of the goal. We're not going to do things the easy way as it seems, but it's at times like that you just need us because we got such a good defensive record, it's so disappointed that when we take a 3-1 lead, that we allow the opposition back in, and then the nerves creep in.
Yeah, and I find it's a red flag to a bull for other teams. If teams are watching games like that and they're thinking, right, well, if UCD can go down and score twice, we should be able to have a go at them, especially, when you're playing the likes of the Cove in a couple of weeks. Hopefully it doesn't come down to that. But, like, the Dundalk seem to have this habit, and that's not a this season thing. They've made it difficult for themselves over the last couple of seasons, but there's always a chance. Like Stevie had said on the comms with Tom, there was going to be plenty of goals, and you just got that feel. Whereas years ago you mightn't have got it, but this year you seem to be getting away up. It's 3-2. There's a guts of 20 minutes left here because you've got injury time. This could be a real problem, and you nearly wanted another one. Even though we're talking 3-2 up, you nearly wanted another goal. It's and that's probably why. I know it's kind of. It's easy to give out now in hindsight. The ball's come across the box. It's a silly foul to give away. Ball's come across. He's got a clear header in front. I don't know who he's in front of. You might have to remind me. But it's come that far. The annoying thing is it's come that far right across the body.
Actually, he just gets in ahead of.
Yeah, so someone who's probably not, that's a player who's probably not kind of normally in that position. But obviously they've set him up for set pieces, maybe in training. But you don't want to be conceding. Like, you can't do anything but screamers. If somebody's hit an absolute worldie from 30 yards, you can't do anything about it. But you got to be. You got to judge then if the keeper's misplaced, if the boys in the post are misplaced, it's got right across the box from, you're probably talking 10 yards when it's all said and done, it's probably 10 yards header because you're that diagonally out from the box. Things like that have to be stopped, because if that's in the last minute and you're 3-2 down already and that comes across your box and that's gone in, that's the difference between lifting a league and not lifting a league. Now, thankfully, it hasn't cost us. And in fairness, we're probably, I don't say we were comfortable after that. We weren't. Nobody's comfortable after going 3-2, get pegged back to 3-2 with 10 minutes to go in the game. But it's not something Dundalk want at Oriel Park. With the pressure that's already on them, you don't want that. Whatever about, like, if it's the other way around and we scored that goal and UCD are 3-2 up, we probably go and get an equaliser. But we had we're in a position where we're chasing something, but you don't want to be defending a thing like that, a lead like that. A couple of minutes to go, especially against the likes of UCD, who had obviously gone at us pace wise right from the start. But we kept it contained, and look, it's not an ideal scenario. There'll probably be more annoyed over the second goal than actually the performance itself. But it's just something we need to watch for. We tend to concede silly goals. We don't concede that many, but when we do, they tend to be horrendous. And it's usually an error somewhere along the line. But look, we can't. Look, it's not that we can't give out too much. Of course we can. We do. It's our podcast. But
we've done it for 33 episodes.
It's you hope that, like Longford, the result last week, get it out of your way, get over it, get back to training like they've done all season. We've had, I think Manus mentioned there, you might have come up with a cracking stat there. It could be the third time we got 3 wins after defeats. I don't know if that's right. It could sound about right. But that shows the mentality of the group already. They're willing to come back stronger, and not that tonight's a defeat, but the issues with the goals maybe they might go looking at. But look, we move on to next week, and you hopefully just brush it down and put it in. Look, it's 2 bad goals to give away because it's 2 hours along that side of the field. But it's not ideal because it can be dealt with, but it hasn't been, and that's football. That's just the way it is.
I think that's one of Big Ron's cracking names he come up with, bounce back ability. I think he called that when you can go back with a victory after a defeat like that. So it's fair to say that Dundalk have bounce back ability so far this season, if that stat holds up right. And I see Frank there just talking about the midfield battle. Absolutely, Frank. I think we were talking about, I think the triangle of Groom, Parashiv and Aid Irvin, it just didn't seem to work, or it seemed to play into the way that UCD wanted to play. They seen as some sort of vulnerability down that left-hand side, and I think until half-time, we couldn't address that. And it was only just when we made the substitutes at half-time, I think, moving Aid Irvin over to the left side of the back two, as Stephen McDonald called tonight on the comms, that seemed to kind of plug that gap and give them something else to think about. But it certainly wasn't, like, as we mentioned, like, it wasn't a weakness in Sean Spate that they were aiming for. I think it was a lack of cover for him more than anything. was leading to the issue with it. It's 3-2. There's still a fair bit of football to be played. It got even to go back to Martin's point at the start. It got nervy. It really.
It always does. It always does at the Dundalk and Oriel Park. It always does.
Yeah, you could see as soon as I think that second goal went in, the crowd kind of quietened down. To be fair to the Shed, then I'd say for as soon as the 5 minutes of added time went up, they were vocal. The drum was out non-stop. The singing, everything was going. They were prepared to push and carry that team over the line at the end, and I think it did work. And I think they had a big hand in that. Yeah,
and like that's the beauty. Like that's why this sport. That's why we love it. You got to be that 12th man. I don't want to sound cliche, but as like let's take for instance, I know a few boys that are going down to Cove for the final game, but you don't want to be going down there with 3 points gap. You want to be going down there already knowing you won the league and go down and enjoy it.
Absolutely.
So moments like that, and get the crowd on your back, get that kind of hair on the back of your neck standing up from the crowd. You saw Devon at the end. Look at that Carroll fella showing off where he is.
I thought Mark said he could feel the nerves in his soul for a second.
I can't even spell that. I can't even spell.
I had to reread it.
It's that's what you want. You need a crowd to drive you, and if that's at UCD tonight, we probably don't have that kind of crowd. Yes, you'll have the usual suspects and the boys who will travel everywhere to watch the
bowl doesn't hold an atmosphere. Then it's a different Oriel.
It kind of together. Then it's worked out in the end, but. Like you say, if it's in the bowl tonight, you mightn't have that atmosphere. UCD could be winning the game. You don't know what kind of setup they have there, but that's what you need. That's what's going to win a league for you. The results in the pitch and the crowd in the stands. You got to get a combination of both. And these players sometimes will need a lift. And even though it is 3-2 and you are winning, and you'd expect maybe to grab another one, we don't always. It's always very tight. When the Dundalk are under the cosh at Oriel Park, everybody can feel it, and you got to get that crowd behind you. You got to get that bit of buzz and that bit of atmosphere. And the only way to do that is that crowd, and the Shed is the best in the league at that. There is nothing. As much as people give out about how close the pitch is and how tight fucking shite the ground is, there's nothing like the Shed when it's rocking. There really isn't. Yeah. You won't get that at Tala. You won't get that. You won't get it anywhere like that because they're too far away and the stands are too fancy and they're all acoustic and all this kind of shit. You can't beat galvanized metal and a drum and Egypt singing. You cannot beat that. And that's what will drive these boys to a title, hopefully, at the end of the season. And Chris up in the pantry getting his feet rocked off him.
Yeah, exactly. That's what the shaking is in the camera. But yeah, you wouldn't have it. You wouldn't have it any other way. How does this set us up for these last three now, then, Gally?
Well, look, I mean, it sets us up the way we'd want to be. We still have that 6 point gap. You don't want it to be a 3-2 win tonight, but look, that's result. That's football. You got to get over and go again. The big thing for us next week is Cove Bray. Is that Friday night as well? Is that a Friday night or is that Saturday night?
I'm going to check for you now.
I think it's a Friday night. Isn't it? So it would be Friday.
Friday night.
Yeah. So that could be a saving grace for us. Well, hopefully they'd cancel each other out, or Bray win it. But if they can just have a really bad night at the office and just have a really boring no goal difference draw, that'd be fine.
I think a couple of sending off for them or something.
Absolutely. We can go down, we try and get that crowd down, the Shed boys down to get sending offs and just annoy the fans and annoy the players into playing bad. But it's, we have it to lose. There's no there is no way around it. We have to lose. It's ours to give away to someone else. We'd have to give it away. Because we're better than everybody else in the league in our day. But it's look, I sat here a couple of weeks ago. I don't know how many times I said this, and I thought we would have had it wrapped up by now. But I still think it's ours. I don't envisage any. I don't envisage any issues here of us not. Do this. We would have to have an absolute nightmare of 3 games, and you'd have to have 3 games on the bounce. And Cove would have to beat you as well. I just don't see it.
A trip to
I know. There's nothing easy. There's definitely nothing easy. But I think the boys, they know what's at stake now. They know what's at stake anyway. But barring any kind of tomfoolery, I think at Lone, like you said, that's a tough game. I think Cove and Bray. Yeah, Cove and Bray is a bigger game. I think that's the game to if that game can go the way we want it, then we could be all right. But again, it's ours to lose. The boys, I think, are mentally ready to go. It's just whether they can just, like you say, go down there, get a result. Because next week's the most pinnacle week of the season, probably, considering who the other boys have in their fixtures. And like Jason said, we just have to keep winning. We can't do any more. Scrappy 1-0s, like you famously said on this podcast, scrappy 1-0 lone goals off the arse for the defender. We don't care, like that. They take it. And the pressure.
I feel this Athlone away match is like the pressure though on the treaty match. I know we came out sizable winners in that match, but I feel it's coming from a 0-0 draw there last time we went to Lizzie Woolen. I just have that feeling again that it's one that Kieran is going to have to get the lads up for. And get them really rallied for this. And it's got that vibe on it again. You're not going to have a big home crowd. We'll probably have a good sizable away crowd down at gone to the Midlands as well on it. The pressure's on us to go and get it. So far on the majority is unlike our last trip, of course, to the Midlands, they went horribly wrong. Hopefully this is one that weight of expectations comes out the right way. Like we were cursing our luck against Treaty all season, and then we managed to get that one. There's another one where I think we got to do our job against Athlone, and like Jay says, we just got to keep winning our games, of course. That's the key part. Seems to be a lot of left backs joining us tonight, Gally. On Instagram, I don't know what's going on. I think Sean goes in to check to make sure he's still getting a medal.
100%. We'll get you one. We'll fight them for you, Sean. Don't worry about
it. And I think Sean Spate needs to rewind back to the start of the show when we were praising him. You can get that after for it.
I can understand what Jason said as well. You win it in 2 weeks. You potentially, could be done next week. Depending
on the results.
But we can't do anything about what they're doing. We can't do anything no matter what COVID.
Harps at home. It'd be nice to do it in front of your home fans. Though.
Of course, 100%. That's the game. I mean, forget about the COVID match. But that's the game. You want to do it at home. Front of it, it'd be a bumper crowd if the results are going right. It'd be a bumper crowd at Oriel Park. You're probably looking at the biggest attendance of the year. I would think. You would like to think. Tara Mullen there, flat out of Mullen's chip shop.
Frank's got the fear of the Midlands like I have.
That's been maybe drive them past Longford's pitching the way down. Do a wee rap, come round back to Athlone just to show them this is not happening tonight, lads.
Yes.
But it's in our hands. I mean, look, like Jay said, we can't put it, we have to win. We keep winning. Pressure's on Cove, they're chasing us. You just don't want to slip up that they've got a bit of an advantage there. You really don't want to be going down the Cove. Although I'd still fancy us to win it, you don't want to go down the Cove, that long trip. You'd have to go down a week's holidays. You have to go in 3 days before. You couldn't land there in the morning of a match. You get ready for that game. But you don't want to be going there. And we said that at the start of the season. We said this the first podcast. That's the game. You want it done before then. No, I think I'm on record saying we'd have it done with 4 games, 4 or 5 games to go. So I'm a game out. I'm at least a game out. But
that's the first week.
Yeah, disaster. What do I know? But yeah, look, it's in our hands, and they just keep plodding away. There's no way around it.
Right. Before we get into Daryl Horgan's square ups after this, let's have a look at our man of the match for tonight. Who was it? I'm not gonna lie to you, Gally. You could pick anybody across the whole team. There's that many people kind of nominations. There's a few standing out for Owen Kenny, Ruby, fair few for Conor O'Keefe, which considering he's been monitoring a concussion or something to play him at centre half, where you're going to have to possibly head a few balls is fairly brave of him as well. And even some shouts for Daryl Horgan coming in, making a massive change at half time to this team. Who for you stood out?
We've a Sean Spade shout as well. I think
Sean Spade's got a few goals early on there as well. I've given a Ruby, I think 2 or 3 almost walkovers. I actually, there was 1 or 2, or I think he gave me a big hello on the way at Oriel. I think he was kind of looking at me.
Yourself and Steph, or maybe it was Niall Luby, had voted for him one night and I didn't go. I think I went with McDade or something. I can't really remember. And I think it'd be very harsh, given what he's done tonight, to clinical penalties, and I've probably been
This
very
is the
harsh.
redemption arc, is it?
Yeah, I'm probably been more harsh on Sean Spade as well, considering he's come in and done the job he's done. But I really can't. I could not, in good conscience, not give it to Ruby simply because he's into double figures now. He's hit 2 top penalties, really under a lot of pressure. And considering how the first half had gone, to stand up and take a penalty as clinical as that, and then do it again in the second half with Darryl Hogan watching on. I think he's been immense over the last couple of weeks. And I think a Ruby. I don't know if I've given him a man of the match this year. I definitely overlooked him twice, but there's a few you could mention. I mean, in no particular, well, probably in a particular order, you've a Ruby, Spate, O'Keefe as well. Like you said, O'Keefe had a great game, and he's been solid, probably underrated a lot of the time when he's come in.
Well, I think it's just the fact that he wasn't selected as a centre back, but he's actually playing his best football for us as a centre back when we needed a centre back. Yeah,
and then McDade's have a decent game. I'm just going to go to Ruby just on the pure goals and the influence he's had in the game. His influence, his penalties. I'm going to go with a Ruby on this one.
I think like his hold up play and everything else, there was he had plenty of big chances in it. He seemed to be, like I said, I forget who said it earlier on, but the pressure of those 2 penalties today. One is to get us back into the game before halftime, and the other is to take a lead in a game where we cannot afford to lose tonight. Yeah. I think that's massive pressure, and it says a lot about his confidence and everything. I think we talked about Ruby at the start of the year of being injured in the preseason, and that put him behind everyone else in the pecking order. And I think he kind of has rose to that challenge somewhat. And improved his performance. His hold up play is so much better that we're seeing. We actually thought he could be like the bits and pieces we seen him at the start was kind of wide right.
Oh, that we 100%. I think all 3 of us had him playing it right wide. I think Steph had a bit left. I had him at right. I think you had it. Yeah, it was that because of his pace and just how he approaches the game of football. That's what it looked like. But I mean,
but he's turned into a real focal point, and someone's able to hold up and
touch wood. If we do go up, he could be a real player. He could be someone to absolutely rattle the centre backs that are in the league and the League of Ireland Premier Division. And
do you think of powerful strikers that works in that Premier Division? Like that's exactly 100%. What you need.
Yeah, and we got and if it doesn't work, we got a tiny Owen Kenny, I suppose. Owen Kenny's just as big as him. We got Dean Ebby if he's still here. The list is endless. The potential, let's say. But a Ruby for me, I would agree. He's been sensational.
Yeah, well, I'm more worried that, as I said, Bemmy gave me a big goodbye leaving Oriel, and if I didn't give him there, will he call me out on it? I'd be more worried. There's plenty in for Bemmy tonight as well. Let me just think I'll go with whoever said it first. is probably the fairest way. First for Ruby tonight was Darren Duffy. Thanks so much, Darren. So there is a 15-inch pizza in Tony's Pizzeria on us. Just I have to zip it off. Yeah. It's just going to get messy. So there's a 15-inch pizza there for us in Tony's Pizzeria on the town end. So just let Finney and the guys know there. And as Gally always says, lamp in some other stuff on that. Chips, curry sauce. They always do well to look after everyone on that as well, as he's fed my family in many a time. and we've always been well looked after. Just before we finish, guys, I just want to say a shout to Darryl coming on tonight. Didn't look fully fit, yet ran himself into the ground. Had a key part in giving, obviously, the penalty over to Ruby. Sets up the second goal, but then gets into an unmerciful scrap.
Darren fisticuffs Hogan. That's what we call it from now on.
That completely rattled UCD for a good 5 minutes after, and that seemed to kind of nearly see us through. Bar obviously the big save from Pete at the end, another City free kick given away to put ourselves under unnecessary pressure. But that seemed to be like it just got to them for a little bit, and the passage of play that UCD wanted, that was kind of gone with them at that stage, and
it broke up the game. Yeah, we'll put it down. We put it down the yellow card for gamesmanship. Maybe it's just good, good game tactics or in-game tactics. Yeah, it's so unlike him. Now, don't get me wrong. He's no fear of getting into a tackle or getting up in somebody's face. But it was just, when himself and Ronan Finn got talking and after, God, this is going to be another round now off the camera, because you know what Ronan Finn's like. He's not shy of getting stuck into somebody either. But yeah, but sometimes you maybe just need that. Maybe you need, it's usually if they haven't shit back on the orders. But look, you don't want to see players book. I think that's.
But McManus, his head was gone. It was gone.
And then they could, and like, you know, maybe Darren knew exactly what he was at. He's like, I'll rattle these now, because then there's nothing left for the last couple of minutes. And it was such a weird time of the game. Normally that's kind of like first half, first 10 minutes. It was such an odd time in the game to get in a tussle with someone. But it went on off the camera for like a good 10, 15 seconds if we didn't spot. And not that there's anything wrong with the camera worker, so I was not giving it. But maybe that's what you need. You know, you need that little bit of bite. And look, no better man to come on. And
it's good to eat by example, isn't it?
Yeah, of course. And it's added time on. And look, in hindsight, he'll definitely tell you, you know, it's gamesmanship. I done it on purpose.
Yeah,
you know, kind of just.
It was the 95th minute, I think, at that stage, and he's trying to wind down that clock and get as much of it eaten up. And you know, when you take about all the gamesmanship and everything that happened, the two boys squaring up, and there seemed to be still kicking off after, and bits and pieces. It probably had up 2 minutes of that added time, and they played maybe 30. And look, you could say they still had a chance for an equalizer, but it
shows a bit of bite. It shows a bit of bite that you want. You know, we're in this. You know, we're in it to win it. This is what we want. I mean, look, it's not a great example of getting yellow carded, but I mean, you know, to the young fellas to watch that, say, right, well, he's on there. We need to get on there and, you know, stand up for ourselves and, you know, give them nothing. And it's great. It's great to see. Not the yellow card, but great to see you.
We definitely.
I don't condone getting booked.
No, Jason Crowley just agreeing with some brave calls by Kieran tonight as well. The booze and stuff for Ronan Finn. Happy enough?
Sure, as you expect, between himself and the Brennans. What, like that's I think. Look, a lot of players leave Oriel Park and don't get that. I think when Ronan Finn went to where he went, because where he came from, it's one of them. Like there's certain players that will always get that because of the way they left the club. I don't know. Look, I mean, I was a massive fan. If you read, I remember doing a program for Oriel Park as a fan and talking about the best player I'd seen. And Ronan Finn was mine. And Ronan Finn was one of the best players I've seen at League of Ireland level. And he's a fantastic footballer. But I mean, look, it doesn't. He's not beyond a bit of stick himself. You know, Killian Brennan over the years would have got it. Gannon would get it as well. It's just the way it is.
I don't know if Gannon would he?
Well, I think he might. I tell you what the worst I've ever heard. I tell you what the worst pictures. The worst I've ever heard was Derek O'Brien. He got absolutely. He got murdered one night at the game, like absolutely hounded. But I mean, what Ronan got is probably very mild. But it's all in good. Look, people know the talent. They know, like Jason had said. Look. He might be not like he's a hell of a footballer when he was here. Yeah. But look, that's what you get. Look, that's just those days. Have to take it. Of course. Have to take it.
Yeah. Well, look, on that shirt, I think we'll wrap up for tonight. We've been through enough of a roller coaster in Oriel tonight, so we'll wrap this one up. A big thanks to everyone for all the comments and everything else tonight as well. Always makes the show nice and interactive, which is how we like it. We like to take your opinions and go and kind of have a chat about them. So always keep them coming in. Thanks as always to Vinny and everyone in Tony's Pizzeria as well, and for their man in the match competition, to Mark Carolan and his soul for their sponsorship as well. We'll be doing stuff with Mark very, very soon, hopefully on our end of year live show. We just need to wrap up this title and we can start making
there's the title of the podcast. When you put it on Spotify, that title, episode, whatever, what are we on? Season 5, episode 33. Shit,
200 and something episodes later, and we've come up with shit players.
Cheers for that, Jason. That's it. There's the title.
That's it. That's in the bag. And of course, thanks to Donald Green and Dundalk Village for the overall sponsorship of the podcast as well. We'll be back again after the Athlone match that hopefully Gally has not put a jinx on us. And hopefully we are one step closer to wrapping this title up. I think that's us, Gally.
That's us.
Happy with that. Great. We are out until next time. Come on to town.
My black and white scarf, my black and white scarf, my black and white scarf, my black and white, yeah, it's black and white, we're just black and white.